Say, man, it's the war zone. But we talking about child support tonight. Say, I need some theme music, man, for real. I need some new theme music, man. It's what it is, though. I want to welcome you to the hottest show in social media history. It's the war zone, baby. Tonight we talking about child support. Who the gold digger, the man or the woman? I got my beautiful co-host, Demetri K, and I got my new co-host, Donovan Sadiq. And bruh, we're gonna introduce her in a second, but we done brought the lawyer on the show too. So if you got some questions, you're gonna be able to ask a real live attorney tonight, bruh. Man, killer music, man. That's just how it is in court when you go to court for child support. Whole atmosphere can change at the drop of a dime. I want to welcome y'all to the war zone tonight. Say what's going on with you, man. What's going on with you? I see I got my co-host Demetri K in the building. My new co-host Donovan Sadiq is in the building. And young lady, if you could do us a favor, introduce yourself. She getting her mic unmuted, y'all.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to join this conversation about child support. My name is Brenda Durun. I am a licensed Texas attorney practicing primarily in Harris County and surrounding areas. I specialize in family law litigation. So that's divorce, child support, child custody, adoption. Anything related to the family is within my purview. So I'm happy to be here, happy to answer any questions and give you the legal opinion that's in the Texas Family Code so that you guys can get a better understanding of child support in Texas. So thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Demetri, go in, baby. I'm a victim.
Well, okay, I'm going to take the lead once again because Gary is a victim. He has been brutalized by the child support system. And so I'm going to take over this evening with asking the questions. And so for those of you guys who saw the show yesterday, it was pretty heated and it was very informational and some great things happened. Some relationships are starting to mend, and so it's a great thing. I mean, it's a good thing that we're having this discussion because people are all over the place with how they feel about child support. There's a lot of people who are for it, and there's a whole lot of people who are against it, and there's some people who are in between. And so what we're going to try to do tonight, as well as get to some of your comments. Now, I know there's a lot of them. I think we had, about 500 or so more.
Easily.
Last night, so obviously we're not gonna read all 500 of them, but what we're gonna, all of us are gonna try to do is get some of the questions or comments that stick out and try to address those. And so, the first comment I actually think is a pretty good statement, and so I want to get you guys' opinion with a true or false, and that is the child support system should be abolished. True or false? And Gary, let's start with you since you're the victim.
Yeah, I think it needs to go. I mean, bottom line, was it created to actually help the child, or was it actually created for the state? I'm in Texas, for the state of Texas, just to make money off of it. You know, I don't support it. I don't feel that a judge understands that. You know, when you give me visitation rights, you telling me I can visit my child twice a month, but yet I need to develop a relationship with my child. So I don't like the system, and I think it needs to go.
And let's have
Well, I don't necessarily think it needs to, be abolished completely, but it does need to be revamped because it's not working to benefit families. It's really making families even more alienated from each other, and it's causing so many problems. It's putting so many people in debt. It doesn't make sense that in some situations, the guy is proven not to be the biological father, but he still has to pay for a child that's not his. So there's something wrong with that. when they say it's in the best interest of the child that this guy continues to pay, even though the guy that was supposed to be the father didn't meet the minimum 30 days or whatever? Why is it that you can get off death row based on DNA, but you can't get off child support?
Our attorney, go ahead and take it away.
Listen, I'm listening to some of these opinions and my mind is blown. I'm gonna answer your question. The answer to that question is false. We need child support. The problem that we're having is there is a lack of education, a lack of knowledge about how the child support system works, how the Office of the Attorney General works. And I don't think a lot of people understand just because you're paying child support does not necessarily mean that the Office of the Attorney General has to be involved. So I'm going to say that it does not need to be abolished, that we need to educate more people, and that we need to understand why child support is here and how does it work and what rights do obligors, the people who are paying child support, have when they come into situations that create problems for them in their lives.
Gary?
Well, I'm like Donovan. If you keep it, it's a lot of things that have to change. I'm gonna give you an example. This is the one thing that irks me to death. If you go on the child support court and the mom is the custodial parent and she continuously misses court, a lot of time they'll just keep resetting. They'll reset it. The first time the father missed the court, default judgment, and they sting it. All you got to do is miss court one time and not be the custodial parent, and you're going to get got. I think if we keep it, a lot of things have to change.
All right, so let's have the attorney answer this one. Someone wants to know, if the custodial parent drops the child support, can they pick it back up, I guess, at a later date?
That's a great question, and I'm happy to answer that. People have to understand there is a difference between having the Office of the Attorney General involved in your case and having a private lawsuit where parents have agreed to some amount or had a trial to determine what the amount of child support is supposed to be. When the Office of the Attorney General is involved, mom is not necessarily the petitioner. It's the state of Texas. And so as the state of Texas, in filing an enforcement or doing what they need to do to make sure that child support is paid, mom is essentially a witness in the case, if you will. And I'm just saying this so people who are not licensed attorneys can kind of understand why there's resets. So if your witness is not available, a lot of people know about criminal trial. If the witness is not available, then they're going to reset it until that witness is able to appear. And so if it is the Office of the Attorney General case, absolutely, they will reset it. However, there's another part of that I think a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times dad is just coming to court, or mom, whoever the obligor is just coming to court, and they're not filing anything in court. And so if you file something in court and you show up to court, you may actually have remedies available to you, to get a default in favor of you.
Okay, so I want to ask this also as a true or false question. If I can't see my child, then I shouldn't have to pay. True or false? And let's start with, I want to always get the attorney last because you're going to bring like the knowledge and like the real deal. So let's start with Donovan.
You're always going to be the parent. So you should always have access to your child if you're paying or not. Unfortunately, you've got some women that feel, I carried this child for 9 months, it came out of my body and I've got the jurisdiction and this is how it's going to be. But if a lot of people would realize that it takes two. I'm not an attorney, but I believe that either parent should always have access to a child. And I believe the attorney would say this, even if I was in prison right now, I would still be able to have visitation to my child if I work it out to where she could bring him up to the prison or whatever is going on.
Demetri, can you repeat the question?
If I can't see my child, I shouldn't have to pay child support. True or false?
That's like a open-ended question to me because that could go both ways. If he's not paying, then I'm not going to let you see your child. And I think it's BS both ways. I mean, you still are a parent, so you still need to handle your financial obligation. You see what I'm saying? But the moms who, oh, he's not paying, I'm not letting him see his kids, that's not right either. So I think that you still should be able to see your child. You still should force the issue, even if you can't pay. I mean, if you can't pay, you still should be able to see your baby because it's about relationships. It shouldn't be about money.
So let's hear from the attorney.
So once again, I think it's important that our followers or the people who's watching this tonight understand the dominating law when it comes to child support, possession, and access of a child. And that's going to be the Texas Family Code. In the Texas Family Code, the theory of the whole Texas Family Code for children is what's in the best interest of the child. And when we have child support and child custody, a lot of people, when they come into my office, let's say, for example, for a divorce, I have to let them know there's a difference. There's the divorce, there's the property division, there's child support, and then there's child custody. How are you going to be visiting with your child? Visitation and custody do not go in hand. Well, sometimes they can go hand in hand, depending on who's having the child the longest, which is going to determine who's going to be able to receive child support. But they don't go hand in hand when we say, oh, he's not paying child support, so because he's not paying child support, he cannot see his child. That is incorrect. A mother or a father who is denying a parent access and visitation to a child has remedies in court. You can file an enforcement against that parent to have them held in contempt of a court order, to go to jail, to pay a fine, and you can also get additional time, which is called makeup time, to make up for that visitation that you lost. I don't think it's right for any parent to deny another parent possession and access of their child because they're unable to pay child support. There are remedies for your child support, and there's remedies for your possession and access.
Okay, so somebody wants to know how can a non-custodial parent or the father, whoever it is, because it could be moms or dads, get custody or some custody of their child if they don't have any currently? And so I asked that to our attorney.
That's a very great question. If you're trying to get custody of your child, it's important that you have some type of court order in place, because if there's no court order in place, mom can do whatever she wants to do with the child. Dad can do whatever he wants to do with the child. And if you call the police, they're not going to do anything because there's no court order to say who's supposed to have the child when. So it's important that you do get a court order. How do you do that? In the state of Texas, you must file a suit affecting the parent-child relationship. Attorneys call it a SAPSR. This determines who's going to be the primary caregiver. In the state of Texas, it's presumed to be in the best interest of the child for the parents to have joint managing conservatorship, which means both parents have equal rights to that child, unless there's evidence of something different. All right. So you want to file a suit affecting the parent-child relationship. In that suit affecting the parent-child relationship, we're going to determine who's going to be primary, who's going to have possession and access, which is the possessory conservator, right? Who's going to be paying child support and what amounts, who's going to be providing medical for that child, and any extra things that relate to the child and parent relationship. So the suit affecting the parent-child relationship is what you want to file in court to get custody and to get something on the books, so that if a parent is denying you access, you have a type of remedy in court to get you the relationship with your child.
All right, and you guys, I hope that you guys are writing some of this stuff down, because we are very fortunate to have a very knowledgeable attorney on answering your questions. Because most people ain't gonna do it without a retainer fee. So
exactly, you getting a free consultation,
and we appreciate it so much. So I'm gonna ask Gary and Donovan's opinion. Then I'm gonna go to our attorney. So who should the parent that's paying child support be able to claim the child on their taxes as well? How would that work? So let's start with you, Gary, and then we'll go to our attorney last.
I think if you are splitting the cost of, what it takes to take care of the child, that should be alternated from year to year. It realistically should be alternated. See, I don't have long answers for this, because tonight I'm gonna be the ghetto dude in the room, because I got a bunch of hood cats watching me. So I just think if I'm paying my child support, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. coming through with my visitations, and especially if I'm paying what I need to pay, we should alternate, putting the child on the tax return from year to year. 1 year I got her, the next year you got her.
Donovan?
Yeah, in my experience, I'm with Gary. You know, it should be alternated. But in my experience, I didn't really need to file for myself. So I let her do it most of the time, which actually gave me a break. But I'm talking about the child that is not through the court system. Now, the one that's in the court system, I let her have that as well because I didn't want to deal with it. I just was doing what I had to do. You go ahead and file it. I don't want to go through the problems of just dealing with it. But I have a question for the attorney when we get around to it. So let me know.
All right, now we'll get the real answer from our attorney.
The real answer. So it's important to know the dominating law for credit on your tax return. So Texas law has nothing to do with who's able to claim a child on their taxes. That's governed by the federal law. And the dominating law for that is going to be the Internal Revenue Code, right? And so simply put, the Internal Revenue Code says the parent who has the child the greatest amount of time is the parent who is obligated and allowed to carry the child on their taxes. However, parents can come to an agreement where one parent takes the child 1 year and another parent takes the child another year. But this has to be an agreement with the parents. It's not going to be put into an order just because you mentioned it. It has to be an agreement because the federal law says the parent who has the child the greatest amount of time is obligated and allowed to carry the child on their tax returns. Now, I don't know if followers are able to see the link that I just posted, but I did write an article about this on my website, DuranLawFirm.com, explaining what the law is and, who's supposed to be carrying the child, which goes to the new stimulus check, right? Who's going to be able to receive that? If you are in arrears, right? If you owe child support, that stimulus check, income tax, any personal injury settlements is going to be intercepted and applied towards your arrears. So, yeah, that the federal government has a huge hand in, what's going to happen with your taxes.
All right, and we'll keep the question to you. So someone wants to know, where should a parent who doesn't have custody and their child is in a different state, where should they go about filing for custody? So should it be in their state or the state that the child actually lives in?
So there's a uniform family code that helps us understand where certain filings need to be made. In the state of Texas, well, anywhere, honestly, it's going to be in the county in which the child resides. So if the child is residing in Texas and Harris County, then you're going to file your suit in Texas or Harris County. However, it's important to know if there has been a prior order issued, then that court has continuing jurisdiction over that child until there has been a motion to transfer filed and granted. So if, for example, my child lives in Harris County and we move to Bell County, if I'm filing anything related to my child, I have to file it in Harris County unless I file a motion to change venue to Bell County. Now, Bell County would technically be able to hear it, but because it was filed in Harris County initially, they would have continuous jurisdiction. So what the county in which the child resides.
Okay, so I have another question, and this happens to people a lot, and I want all of your opinions. Someone wants to talk about cash as a gift. A lot of times we know the non-custodial parent might say, well, here's $200, buy the child some clothes or something like that. Should that be considered a gift? Or even a lot of times people have receipts and they say they be in the system, well, it's still a gift. So I'm going to get Gary, then Donovan, and then our attorney. So should it be a gift? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Let me tell you how I work in the hood with the cats, that I know live in the hood. They go and they give these gifts, and the woman at that point, she takes it as if it's support. She's just gonna take it. She's not gonna say if it's a gift or not. There's no clarification. So for me, I think it needs to stay the way that it is. You know, just pay your money to them people and be done with it. Because, you know, giving gifts is not gonna, you know, help you in the long run. Because when you go to court, they're not looking at none of them gifts. It's a sad situation, but they're not looking at none of them gifts. Now, if I decide I just want to do something, you know, I'm gonna do it. And I don't care if it's a gift or if it's not counted, whatever. But I mean, I kind of like to stick to the way that the laws are written to protect myself.
Totally agree. And you know, all this stuff right now is bringing back nightmares of, you know, me going through the system. Now that I'm out and I kind of know how the system works, because a lot of things that we're bringing up, you know, either I've heard it or I've experienced it myself within the court system. So this is a great topic. But again, from what I've learned, give them what is stipulated in your agreement through the courts. Anything else is a gift. But you wouldn't know that if you don't follow the summons, you don't show up for court. You know, you're not going to know these things. You're thinking, oh, hey, I got all this other stuff. Now, here in California, there was a case where a guy, he was giving the girl like $200 or something, you know, for like 4 or 5 years. And, you know, they were having a little relationship. And then, of course, Mad Day came and he shows up to court. He's 4 or 5 years behind in child support because she had just filed it, but she filed for the back child support. He showed whatever receipts he had. They gave him no credit. No credit. They said it's a gift. But he wouldn't know that because he doesn't know the law. So
now we'll have the real answer.
Okay, can you hear me? Perfect. So, guys, like, seriously, it's so important that you read your child support order and you understand what's in your child support order. Most orders that I draft, orders that the Office of the Attorney General draft, it's going to have language in there that says anything outside of this, what you're ordered to pay, if it's not paid in the way that we've asked you to pay it through the Office of the Attorney General, it's going to be considered a gift and you're not going to get a credit towards your child support. So I always advise my client, if you want to give extra money, perfectly fine. Pay it directly through the Office of the Attorney General. So that's counted towards your child support that you owe. So if one time you get into a bind, you're not able to pay child support, you have money that you've actually been paying into your child support account and you don't run into these issues. But never, never, never give a mom money in lieu of child support unless you're really willing to just give that money to her, because you're absolutely correct. It is going to be considered a gift. Now, I tried to pull the language up to share on my screen, but I don't want to do that and mess up anything. But if you read your order, it says it in there. Anything outside of this is going to be considered a gift, and gifts are not going to be counted towards child support. Now, if you don't have an order and you're giving money, it's very important that you keep those receipts, because when we talk about retroactive child support, in the state of Texas, we can go back 4 years, okay? We can go back. It is considered to be in the best interest of the child to go back 4 years from the time that you were not taking care of your child. So if you have receipts and you have Cash App log or Zelle log or something like that to say, no, actually, I've been giving her money for my child, then you will get credit in the state of Texas. I'm not licensed in California, so I can't speak to California law, but in the state of Texas, if you're providing actual care and support for the child and you're able to evidence that in court, you will get credit for it.
All right. So again, I hope you all are taking notes. And so someone, and I'm going to try to paraphrase it because I read it, it was long, but basically sounds like he says he's $30,000 behind in child support. He hasn't been able to make regular payments due to being sick or taking care of sick parents, and just a whole host of things. Life happens, right? And so he's also not able to see his child. So he wants to know, what can he do? The mom is not working with them in regards to the, what do you call it, arrears and all of that. So what can he do? Or if anything, what can he do?
Once again, great question. Like we mentioned earlier, child support and possession and access are two separate things. I hate when moms try to use that as a way to manipulate dads and try to use that to not allow them to see their children. Because honestly and truly, what you're doing is creating a wedge between dad and the child, right? So if that is happening to you, you can file a motion for enforcement in court so that you're able to see your child. Once again, mom could be on the hook for contempt, which is, if a contempt is found, she can go to jail. She can get a fine, and she can pay your attorney fee. And you can get makeup time for the days that you miss. Now, if you are in arrears, and you can't afford your child support at this time, you need to file a modification of your child support so that it reflects what you're making now. A lot of times people 2 years ago, you were working a really good job. During COVID-19, I told all my clients, if you're not working anymore, if you're getting less hours, tell me and we're going to file a modification, right? Because child support goes on what you're making, not what you were making or what you have, could make later on down the line. Is what you're making right now. So I would advise that person to file a motion for enforcement and file a modification so that he can get his child support reduced and address those arrears so that he can get a monthly amount that he's paying towards his arrears so that it's not so damning when he goes to court.
All right. And I want to also say to you guys, this advice is free. I mean, it is just like, you can't get better advice. Okay. So if you're having some issues, please reach out to her and, her business and have her represent you. Of course, you want to pay her. Reach out to her. So, okay. And I'll keep the questioning with you, attorney. So someone said that their payments are done. The child is grown, but the case is still active. What does that mean exactly? And how can they close it, I guess?
The case is probably still active because this person has arrears that have not been paid up. So child support in the state of Texas stops at the age of 18 when a child graduates high school. It's done. However, if you owe money to the state, maybe mom was on TANF, maybe mom received some medical assistance through the state of Texas and you still owe money to them, you'll continue to pay. And if you owe arrears, you will still be paying child support until that arrears amount is closed out on. So there's nothing you can do but pay your balance.
Sorry, wrong button. Okay, so the next question is, and I'll start with you, Gary. We'll go to Donovan, then we'll go to our attorney here.
Sorry, let me add. If you have a good relationship with the obligee, the person who is getting child support, what you can do is file a form with the Office of the Attorney. If this is money owed directly to the parent, right? This is not money that's owed to the state of Texas. You can do a credit form, and basically she can waive out that amount of child support. Now, you got to have a good relationship with her because the money, if it's not owed to the state of Texas, that becomes a civil judgment against you for her as the petitioner, and you will owe her that money directly, but she can waive off that money if you guys are, in agreement.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So the next question is, Gary, I'll start with you, Donovan, then we'll go to our attorney. If one goes to jail, should the payment stop?
Do we make money when we in jail? In the state of California, you can get a good paying job on the yard for about 12 cents an hour. Your check can be $12 a month. If you want it, you can have it. Common sense tells me that if he go to jail, just let it go until he get out. Just let it go. See, but that's the vindictiveness of some people. They don't want to fight for legislation to change. Oh, he need to pay it. But what I'm gonna pay it with? Commissary? What I'm gonna pay it with? No, they shouldn't have to pay.
Totally in agreement. If you're incarcerated, how are you supposed to work? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. I know that they do it to get father's attention, but to suspend a person's license so he can't go to a job, now you've cost me my job because I can't go. So again, we need we need child support. There's no doubt about that. But we have to make these laws common sense and make it make sense so it's beneficial to the child and to both parents.
And to you?
So I don't know if you guys, man, y'all are really getting like some free. My hourly rate is like $285, and y'all are getting like, okay. So I don't know if they just got this message, but I did another article about this particular subject. If you are in, like, guys, it drives me crazy because this is your responsibility. When you go to jail, you know your ass was paying child support. It doesn't magically fucking go away. Like, you know you were paying child support. So what you can do is contact the Office of the Attorney General. Every TDCJ has a form. And if you don't have that form, ask your mama, ask your daddy, ask your cousin to go to DeronLawFirm.com and go to the article and print out the form for you to let them know, hey, I'm incarcerated, I'm not working, I can't pay child support, so that they can reduce or suspend the amount of your child support until you return. It is your responsibilities. These fathers, these mothers, these obligors are not dumb. So it blows my mind when they say, oh, they're taking advantage. Oh, they knew I was in jail. You can get it modified. All you gotta do is do the fucking work.
Well, here's the thing that I'm gonna kind of go left on you with a little bit. I show up at child support. I ain't been paying my child support. The man tell me you finna go to jail for 180 days. They put the cuffs on me. The mama know I'm in jail. The judge know I'm in jail. This is why I'm saying we need some legislative change, because it's not making sense. I understand what you're saying, what we have to do right now, but the average dude that go to child support court and ain't paid, if he get the wrong judge, he going to jail right then. So it's not like they don't know he in jail. But like I say, if you can get a good paying job in jail, and if it was me, I tell that baby mama, make it happen with that $12 every month.
Right. Real quick, somebody had a really good question. Like, right now, a lot of people are out of work and they can't pay and the courts are closed. What do I do then?
Once again, Lord, this is why I say it's not child support. It's not the Office of the Attorney General. Yes, there can be some legislative changes done, but the problem is lack of knowledge. First of all, the courts are not closed. I still go to court and have virtual hearings in court on family matters, and you can still file things in court. Listen, if you are filing a modification today, absolutely, it's not going to get approved tomorrow, right? However, when you go before that judge, it's going to be retroactive. So from the date that you filed is what your child support is going to be. If you're making $5 an hour, then the judge is going to render a verdict based on your $5 hour a job, and you're going to get it retroactive from the date that you filed. The courts are not closed. You can still file. You can still file. That's misinformation that's going out there. The courts are not closed.
All right. So, and Gary, is there a way we could put her website up for people to be able to contact her on the screen here? Is there a way we can do that?
You'd have to send it over to me in an inbox, and I can get it up.
Okay. Yeah, because we want you to get some business from this, because
you're about to get a lot of business.
Yeah, because you're giving the game away. All right.
Well, can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
I think when I speak of legislation, when a man goes to court and he's wrongfully convicted of something, and he goes to jail, and 20 years later, they find out he didn't do it. You know, they let him out of jail. If everything works the right way, he gets to sue the state of Texas. He gets money for being wrongfully convicted. There are a lot of guys that are paying child support for kids that are not theirs. And these women know these kids are not theirs. And then 14, 15 years later, they find out. This is where I'm saying there needs to be some legislation. Because at that point, if you knew it wasn't his child and you made him pay all, think about it, when they pay all that money, we don't get it back. We don't get a dime of it back. I think legislation, and I'm telling y'all, I'm calling the state rep when we get off this video, that there needs to be a new law put in place that these slick mamas with these games, you either go to jail or paying back every dollar that you took from it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. You know what? I've seen some things like that. And let me tell you, you as a father, you have a right to get a DNA test before you sign a birth certificate, before you sign an acknowledgement of paternity. You have a right at any point to file, if you have any question in your mind, to file, to get a DNA test and request a paternity test. So, yes, we have moms out there who are vindictive and just nasty. And there are those situations where it's really messed up. But at the end of the day, I would hope that you know what type of woman you're laying down with, because if you do, you would know that maybe you do need to get a DNA test. I know a lot of men that come to my office and I'm looking at the women and they're telling me the stories about the things that they've done and the type of person that they are. And I'm like, so you didn't know this to begin with? You knew what type of woman this was. But I do agree with you, when there is a situation, you have to understand that criminal law and civil law are two totally different things, right? We're talking money and we're talking life. We're talking liberty, right? So these are two separate and different things. And even with criminal cases, because I do practice a little criminal law as well, that element of knowing, you have to know or should have known, is a very, very, very hard element of a case to prove. That's why a lot of these prosecutors who do some shady shit and shady things with these cases, it's hard to prosecute them, because that element of if they knew or should have known is hard to prove. The only person who knew or should have known is the person who did it themselves. And so I see what you're saying, and I really do agree with it. And if there's any fathers out here that got kind of gypped and juked on that, I'm sorry, but you knew what type of baby mama you was dealing with.
But here's my thing. It's called a level of trust. The same way women complain about prenups. Oh, if you love me, I don't need a prenup. Well, some guys feel, I love her. I knew she didn't cheat on me. So when the baby comes, they just sign the birth certificate. So my problem with it is there are some people, because they have that gullible dude that believes that that's his child, knowing he's not going to sign it, know that that child is not for him. I know that because I have a cousin that did it 3 times.
Well, you can get test at CVS, at Walmart. I'm not with it. I don't really like this argument, because if there's any question in your mind that this child is not yours, DNA tests are just available on the I can go buy one right now if I wanted to.
What I'm saying is, there are certain situations, and then I'm gonna leave this alone. If I'm married to you, why I need a DNA test?
Now that's another problem. In the state of Texas, if you and I are married, you are presumed to be the father unless a DNA test says otherwise. So that is, something that's in the law that's kind of shady. But not really, because if I'm married to you, there's no thought that I'm cheating on you. We are a union, we're an institution. And so that should be your child. I have a case that I'm dealing with right now. I'm representing dad, but mom was married at the time of conception with his child. And we had to get dad to sign off on an AOP, acknowledgement of paternity, because he's not the father. But because the law says if you and I are married, any child born during that marriage, you are the presumed father. So, but there's also ways around it. There's a presumed father and an acknowledged father, and then an adjudicated father, which means there has been some type of filing in court. We've had a court order DNA test, and we know that you are the father. Presumed is just based on law. You and I are married, and so we're going to presume that you are the father. And then we have those acknowledged fathers. Acknowledged paternity is those fathers who just sign off on birth certificates just because they feel like, they are the father. But if you're not married,
for the young guys,
if you are not, my legal advice, if you are not married, I don't care who it upsets. If you are not married, or even if you are married, if you're dealing with a shady wife, if you are not married, for sure, DNA test before signing off on anything. Period. The end. I don't care. you know, if it pisses them off, so what? DNA test before signing off on anything, because the situation that you speak on is very, very common.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question real quick.
Let me just say this real quick, 10 seconds. I just recommend to the young guys out there that's listening to this, have sex at CVS so that you can get your condoms and your DNA test all at the same time.
All at the same time.
And for
but
whoever is wondering, I wonder if the attorney has a son. Absolutely, I do have a son. I have an active child support case, and I represent myself in that case. So yes, I do have a son, and I am very much aware of what goes on in court.
Right. Well, let me ask you this question in regards to the military, because I had a lot of troops that would come and they are being told that they're the father of this child, and the courts tells them you got so many days to prove your paternity. These guys are deployed to Afghanistan and all these other situations. Then they come back. I mean, you're a young military guy. You don't have a lot of money for attorneys and stuff like that. At the end of the day, he is presumed to be the legal father, and he should continue to pay. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that when you got women that are putting children on guys that can't defend themselves? They can't go get a paternity test. They can't walk into court because it was even in the news during the initial Gulf War. This guy was in a sub, and court in Michigan ordered him to be there within 2 weeks. And the military said, this guy is in a sub. He's not coming back for 6 months. He's not even going to come up to surface. Dogged him in court.
Okay, so the question, the legal aspect of that is, you say that he was the presumed father. You have to be specific in your terminology, because for me as an attorney, presumed father means that he was married to this woman. Is that not correct?
Yes.
He was married to this person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're married to this person, unless there's a petition for divorce or something, child support in the state of Texas, child support orders go away when you're married. They don't exist. And so I don't understand how he was paying. Like, that doesn't happen in the state of Texas.
Well, what I'm saying is,
somebody, if you and I had a child, right? And then I put you on child support, and 2 years later we get married. Guess what happens to that child support order?
Gone.
It no longer exists. Okay. Now there's another thing that people need to understand, and this is Michigan that you're speaking of. I'm speaking of Texas. Right. We protect our service members. There's a Service Member Act. No order can be signed while someone is on active duty, period. If they're not there and we know that they're military, or it comes back that they were in military, guess what? That order is void. It does not exist anymore. So I don't know what's going on in Michigan, but in the state of Texas, that does not happen. And if it does happen, there's a remedy for that if they can prove that they were on active duty.
Well, let me ask a question from the hood, because I'm getting the inboxes too. Well, what about the slick mama that's living in the house with the man, no EDL, file child support on him just so they can get the free services from the state? That happened to my brother-in-law for 20 years. I told him, you crazy, because ain't no way I'm going to pay child support for some kids I'm living in the house with, just so she could get Medicaid.
Well, you have to ask what type of baby mama you have and what type of father you're dealing with, right? Because
that was a thought.
Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, I can't answer that.
See, me, I'm talking about this legislation, man. I'm going to Austin. I'm finna fight for some of these dudes, man. Because this go on every day.
Our mothers.
They want the food stamp, the welfare, but they can't get it because you got this dude in the house and you put him on child support knowing he live in the house with the kids.
Let's keep it real, Gary, because I appreciate that comment. And I want everyone to know, you're seeing this nice licensed attorney now, but I'm from the hood too, okay? We cut from the same cloth. Been there, done that, and was on TANF, temporary assistance for needy families. Been there, right? When you file that application, there is a requirement that the father is placed on child support. Why is that? Because that says if you are depending on the state to take care of you, why are you not depending on the father to take care of your children? So I don't feel like there's a problem with that. If you are asking if you are asking the state to help you and the father is not helping you, where's the disconnect? There's a problem with that.
We know why they do it.
So I'm gonna wow, that was I think we were asked the wrong question. All right, so we might be getting into some deeper waters here. Really quick from all of you, true or false? It is disrespectful to ask for a DNA test.
Hell no.
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 I saw somebody make that comment, so I just wanted to, I kind of felt like everybody was saying
no. If you're not with a 24/7, get a DNA test.
As a mother, let me tell you this. As a mother, so I got pregnant at 17. And there was a question from the father of my child, like, I'm just get a DNA test. It hurt to have that asked to me because you know what type of woman you are. You're like, how dare you? Like, I know what type of woman I am. However, at the end of the day, there's no question in my mind who my son belongs to. So if you don't have anything to worry about, then that should be, it shouldn't be a problem for you. But if you're a shady, vindictive thought out here doing all this extra stuff, then I can see how it would be disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it hurts to have someone ask you that, but it's not necessarily disrespectful. And the people who take it as disrespectful are probably people who you want to get a DNA test from.
Well, Alana says, y'all know darn well that's disrespectful. Gary Monroe says, I'm a disrespectful. Good in.
All right, so let's move it along here. Okay. So Mos Def, one of the best rappers on the planet. I love me some Mos Def, but that's neither here or there. Mm-hmm. He actually moved to South Africa for a while because he said the child support system in America is just, it's crap for fathers. Because he said every time he got a new movie role or an album came out, the hits, baby mamas took him back to court and wanted more money. So my question is, how, and I'll ask our attorney first, how do modifications work? And how are they supposed to work? And is it fair? And I asked, so fellas, I'm going to ask you guys that question. So keep that in mind. Is it fair every time you get a raise, or it could be the mom too? Is it fair every time you get a raise that she should be able to haul you back in court? And so how does a modification work?
Listen, Gary, I know you hate to hear it, but in the state of Texas, for child support, we are the best state to be put on child support in. You know why? There is a cap in the state of Texas on how much child support a person can get. Do you know Chris Brown's original child support order was in the state of Texas, and there was a cap. It is 20% of your net resources up to $9,220. So it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or a broke nigga on the street. I'm sorry. There is a cap on the amount of child support a person can receive. Now, a court can deviate from that statutory guideline if there's a proven need of the child. So say, for instance, let's take Chris Brown or Mos Def or whomever, and this child requires to be flown out, to go see their parent. They require private schooling. They require security when they're out. Those are additional expenses that a normal child would not have. And so the court can deviate a little bit from that statutory guideline. But in the state of Texas, the most you'll pay is $1,920 unless there's some proven needs beyond what is considered to be in the best interest of a child. So I hate when people say, oh, baby mama's getting rich off of child support. It's not that serious. Can't nobody get rich off of $1,920. My rent alone is that much.
Donovan?
Well, I should have moved to Texas a long time ago because California ain't having it. California ain't having it.
California, if you want to get rich, if you want to
Man.
get rich, take your baby and move to California. Ain't no caps.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm going to tell you, every time I got a promotion, so did she. And I mean, it really, you know, it doesn't give you incentive to continue working or continue to do what you got to do. So, you know, I don't think it's fair. But like I said, I live in California, so it is what it is. If I had known that Texas was like that, I would have set up residency when I retired over there.
Gary?
I don't really, you know, me, when it comes to taxes, I'm on a 1099. And I'm only make what I make. So if you're looking to get rich off me, you're wasting your time. You came in the door getting the, you're going to go out the door getting the, and my pocket's going to stay the same.
Oh my God. Go ahead.
Well, let me just add to that. Once again, the Texas Family Code, because someone asked about modifications, right? So the Texas Family Code basically says the only way that you can get an increase or a decrease in child support is if the statutory guideline or whatever method you're using to calculate child support. For me in my office, it would be, you know, the statutory guidelines, 20% of the net resources. So you can get a modification if that amount changes by 20% or $100. So if you get a decrease, if you calculate your child support and it decreases or increases by 20% or $100, you can get a modification on child support.
All right. So let's go to the issue of alienation of affection. So there's a lot of, and I think Gary and Donovan both have a story of alienation of affection to where the child was poisoned or tainted in regards to how they felt about their father. Basically, the mother told them stories that wasn't true and, you know, made the children, I guess, dislike them, for lack of better word. So we'll start with the attorney first. Can you tell people what that means and how the courts look upon alienation of affection? And then fellas, tell your story briefly of what that looks like for you, and then ultimately what that looks like for the child.
Alienation is a big thing in child custody cases, not necessarily child support. And we see that when one parent is pretty much, it's a psychological thing, right, with the child, where they're telling the child that the daddy ain't no good, that they're, you know, not allowing them to see the father. It's multiple factors that you can get to show that there's some alienation of the child. So saying negative things about the other parent to the child, not allowing the other parent to see the child, you know, just kind of making that parent not be a part of that child's life, not placing them or not letting them know what the child is doing if they're in extracurricular activities, not placing them as an emergency contact or something like that. That's where we see alienation. And we use that a lot when we're attempting to change primary conservatorship over the child, because remember, Texas Family Code says what's in the best interest of the child. So if you're alienating a parent from the child, it may be in the best interest for that other parent to have primary conservatorship over that child, so that the other parent can have a continuing healthy relationship with the alienated parent.
Gary, let's start with you.
I see it all the time. I see the games that are played. You know, I'm going to hold a kid because you ain't paying your child support. Or, you know, some people pay their child support and you just have an ignorant co-parent. I'm going to speak to it in this manner. That we all report to a higher power. We all do. And eventually, you're going to have to stand in judgment with that higher power for the things that you did. I think that boys need to be in their father's lives because they have to teach them how to be men. I think the girls need to be in their father's lives because girls tend to gravitate to their fathers. You know what I'm saying? How do you expect her to learn how to be treated as a young lady if you won't allow her father to show her. That's all it boils down to with me. I mean, whatever we've been through, we've been through. Now it's time to, if you can repair, you can repair. And I just think time has a way of catching up with people. And whatever that situation that kept you separated from your kids, whether it's man or woman, you got to remember when they get old enough, they'll reach out and they'll try to figure it out. There's going to come a time when you have to answer. So you may answer before you die, but you definitely will answer when it's time for judgment.
Sure, absolutely. In my situation, like I said, it was a very sad situation. I had a young indiscretion. Had a Desert Storm baby when I came back from Desert Storm, and as you know, military, you're going to pay your money. I went through the child support system on my first child, so I'm getting money garnished out of my check. So paid the money faithfully. She got default judgments against me while I'm overseas. Didn't worry about it because money's money. Didn't really care about it. So I'm flying. I'm a pilot at this time. I'm flying in and out, going through country to country, doing what I got to do. Can't be there all the time, child, because I'm serving the country, which is what my father did to me. My father was an aviator as well. So to me, that's normal. That's the lifestyle that I live. I come back. He's a senior in high school. We sit down and he's asking me those questions. Hey, Dad, why aren't you here all the time? Why do you keep doing this stuff? Mom says you're a deadbeat. Mom said you didn't pay no child support. Showed him the paper that said 0. Mom tells him, oh, that's a fake paper. I said, whatever you believe, call this number. It is what it is. I just said, look, I'm in the military. You can't serve a military career without paying child support. That just doesn't happen. Blew my child's mind away. Haven't really talked to him in like 8 years. And it's just a telling story that you got like a lot of these women will do this stuff. And, a lot of people say that I shouldn't be bitter. Okay. I didn't do anything for this woman to turn my child against me the way she did. Now, I know I'm joking when I say this, but if I would have, if I see this woman have so much rage, because if you feel, if they feel that I'm a dirtbag or whatever, that's between me and her. Why does he have to know that kind of stuff? And people don't understand why I get enraged if I ever saw this woman in my presence, because what she did to my child is you got the money. You had the money, all the money you wanted, didn't contest it or nothing. And you did this to my relationship with the child. And that's my horror story. But as I matured, my younger child, I made sure I didn't go through no court systems. I didn't need no lawyer, none of that stuff. So I learned from, my previous mistakes. But a lot of women do that. And it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
Somebody raised the issue of holidays. I just want to ask a basic question. Why do you all think that's such a fight when it comes to the holidays or the child's birthday even? What's going on with that?
Well, like I said in the beginning, man, I mean, whether it's holidays or taxes, let's just be fair and alternate them. I mean, this Christmas, they go to your house. Next Christmas, they come to mine. That's just being fair. I mean, when you're an adult, that is the best way to come up with the resolution to that problem. It's not a big issue to me because I understand it. But I mean, what stops you from going visit your child at mom's house if she allows you on the holiday? Nothing.
So if you have a standard possession order in the state of Texas, you're absolutely right, Gary. You have alternating holidays. I don't know who this is. It's making me echo.
Yeah, mute their microphones. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's better. So if you have a standard possession order, you are alternating holidays. One parent would have the child on even years and one parent would have the child on odd years. So that is something that is in the standard possession order. I always recommend that you at least get a consultation with an attorney before you go into the office of the Attorney General's office, because a lot of the stuff that they draft up is standard. And if you don't know what standard is, you don't know what you're signing up for. And you can deviate. In the state of Texas, you don't have to go by a standard possession order. You can come to some type of agreement with mom or with dad on something that is not standard. I have a client who's a firefighter, and because of his schedule, he can't exercise the first, the third, the fifth weekend. It just does not work for him. So what we did was, with 30 days notice, he can elect which weekends he wants so that he has a continuous relationship with his child. If holidays or if birthdays are a problem, you just need to sit down and think of what is fair. What is in the best interest of the child? Because it's not fair for one parent to always have this child on a particular holiday. It's not fair for one parent to have this child every birthday, every time it's their birthday. It's not fair. It's not in the best interest of the child. It doesn't help to create a continuing healthy relationship with the other parent. And so if that is an issue, at least get a consultation with an attorney so they can give you ideas on how to handle yourself with the office of the Attorney General, so that they can formulate a customized order that works best for your family. And don't feel forced into an agreement either. A lot of courts require you to go to mediation before there's a final hearing on the matter. 90% of my cases are handled in mediation. So maybe we don't agree now, but if we sit down in mediation and really discuss what the real issues are, what the real problems are, and we have a mediator who understands the jurisdiction in which they're practicing, right? They understand Harris County or Milam County or Bell County or whatever county you are in, and they understand what type of judge you're going before. They can kind of guide you and tell you, hey, if you take this to court, this probably is not going to work out in your best interest. You can believe me or not, but I'm here to really help you guys formulate a customized plan that works for you and your family. And that's another thing. In mediation, you get to determine what's in the best interest of your family. There's not a judge who can tell you this is what's going to happen. You and mom or you and dad get to sit down and say, hey, we know our family better than anybody. We know that, what this holiday is. Hanukkah is a huge holiday for us, but the judge doesn't know that. They didn't know that, oh, my grandma died on June 1st. And so that's a big thing in my family. And so it's very important that I have my child on this day, even though in the standard possession order, it's not a day that I'm supposed to have. You can manipulate and customize an order that works for you. And I don't think a lot of parents understand that. When they go through the AG's office, they see the standard possession order and they think that's an end all be all when it is not.
Okay. And so, and I see a comment, Al, he says, if you have an awesome relationship with the parent, you won't have any issues. I wholeheartedly agree, but that's probably rare nowadays for whatever reason. And so this is kind of going off the cuff. And then we have a new guest. Well, what is your name? I don't think he can hear me. So he can't hear. So, okay, so someone said, a woman has 6 kids and has been on the system, right? When is she going to be held accountable? I know I realize I have a lot to do with child support.
Never.
I guess the person is probably wondering, well, the father is held accountable. Why isn't a mother who has 6 kids, and is relying on the system for, for assistance? How come she's not held accountable? So maybe our attorney can answer that one. And then everyone else can chime in.
I don't know why that's a question. I don't understand the purpose of that question. She has a right, a constitutional right, to have as many kids as she can have. And those fathers who are impregnating her have an obligation and a duty to take care of their children. So the question can be, why is a man continuously having sex with a woman who has multiple kids if he doesn't want to be responsible for those children? I don't understand that question. I don't know why that's a question.
I'll tell you what, if I see a woman that has like multiple baby dads, I run the other way. I mean,
That's a red flag. That's a red.
All right, and Gary, what is our new guest name? We can't hear you. So hello there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's Lanisha's husband.
Yeah, well, what's your
Can you
name?
hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
What's your name? Yes, we hear you. This is Stacy.
Stacy.
Husband. Last night. Stacy.
So yeah, we're having just a little bit of.
We won with you last night.
I remember you was wanting your name because we never got your name, but we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. But go ahead.
Oh, okay.
So what did you want to add?
Oh, I was just letting you know who I was.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Didn't have anything right now.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Gary. We can't hear you.
I'm gonna step up for the ladies right now. Which one of y'all big mamas didn't have 12, 13 kids? What's so wrong with a woman having a bunch of kids? See, let me tell you what I do. When I walk through the door, because look like every wife I've had kids already. When I walked through the door, they became my kids, and I didn't care how many was in the house. See, you want to be a man when you're getting the pudding, but you don't want to be a man when it's time to take care of all the responsibilities.
That's right. You better speak.
I'm just being 100 with it. So if you walk up in there, see, remember that night you grabbed out the club? I bet you didn't ask her how many kids she had then. Then remember when you took her home and looked like the house was dark and all the kids were asleep? And then when you woke up the next morning, it was 7 of them running around? Welcome to the hood, homie. Welcome to being a man. If you can be a man and go get the cat, you can be a man and go get the bag.
That's right. You better speak. You better speak. And then what about these men who have multiple baby mamas, who have 6 and 7 and 8 kids? What about them? Why isn't the system holding them responsible? So that is just a messed up question.
Well, the system isn't holding them responsible because I still love him. I can change him. I'm going to be the one. You know how it goes. Come on.
You know, we do want to be the one to change him. We do. He's not a dog. He just didn't meet me yet.
Okay, so let me say this. Someone says, Black women have learned what the state will do for her, mainly to keep the man away.
Let me tell you, listen, there's judges watching this live right now on my stream. And I can tell you, when I go to court defending a father, judges are waiting for fathers to step up and assert their parental rights. The problem that we're having is men do not know what their rights are. They have this idea that the system is out to get me, that this system is, just for moms, and it's a losing battle for me. But the fathers who assert their rights, they look very good in court. And, not look very good in court, but they get the results that they want, because you have to fight for your children, period. If you're going into court and you're not liking what you see, then you need to get an attorney, or you need to figure out a way to fight for what you want, because judges are waiting for fathers to step up. They love to see fathers stepping up for their children. They want to see it.
But don't you think that the stigma, especially for when it comes to Black men in courts, that's one of the main reasons we don't like to go to court, because of the way the system criminally keeps us from going to family court and dealing with what we have?
Absolutely. I had to do a simple name change for my boyfriend. He's a doctor, right? He's a doctor, but when he was younger, he got in some trouble, right? And so when we went into court, we had to do a prove up, and he was just like very tense and tight because of the not the stigma, the experience that the Black man has in the criminal justice system. Now, I said that he's a doctor, not to boast or brag, but to tell you that there's a real problem with how Black men see the justice system, whether it's criminal or civil. But what I want men to know today is the civil system is totally different from the criminal justice system. It is not the same. It is just two totally different ball games.
All right. So we're going to address the question or the comment rather on the screen. And Alana says, why does it specifically have to be Black women? A lot of y'all men sound hurt. Now, maybe not all of y'all on the panel, but some in the comment section. So how do y'all want to address that? And I'll go to the
well, let me address that real quick. And I can only speak for myself. We're specifically addressing Black women because that's all I ever date. So I can't speak on anything else. So that's speaking for me. So that's my answer to that question.
Like I said last night, I've never dated outside of my race. I was never attracted to anything except Black women. Now, I will say this. Let me tell you, whether you know it or not, Alana, you know what it feels like when a father has never taken his daughter to a father-daughter dance? You know what it's like when a father has never seen his child take their first steps? Do you know what it's like when a father has not walked his baby into the first day of school? It's a lot that goes on. It's a lot of hurt that has been issued out. And that goes both ways because it could be the woman in the place of the father. So there are people that are they go through child support and the issues of it, and it's a game. But to some people, it's really not. So yes, some fathers are hurt. Some fathers are hurt. To not be able to interact with your child because this adult has a problem with you. Because you don't want to be with them anymore. That's not right. It's just not right.
Stacey, what do you have to add to that? Okay, well, we'll try to get him when he gets to it. Yeah, he's driving. Can you hear us? We have to come back to you when you get a more of a stable connection. Okay, we have to come back to you when you get a more of a stable connection.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Okay, well, we'll come right back to you. Let me see here. I'm trying to see if there's more here.
Okay.
Let me see here. I'm trying to see if there's... So go ahead. Okay. Well, we'll come back to him. Okay, so let me ask this in general. It doesn't have to be a man or a woman. Like, at what point does a person come to an understanding? Maybe the other parent Stacey, if you can mute your phone a little bit, that the other person is going through some things, whether they lost their job, or I'm not talking about the habitual, I ain't got no job type of parent. I'm talking about, for example, this is the COVID situation. A lot of people have lost their jobs. At what point do we show some compassion and say, okay, you know what? Right now I'm doing okay. I can carry, the financial burden for the child for a minute. Does that ever become a consideration? Because I'm speaking for myself. I know, like with my daughter's father, I never received child support. He was just one of them dudes. Like I said, we're on good terms now. But I, took care of my daughter. But there was a time that we did go to court, and he always showed up. I don't have a job. But he had little side things he would do. So finally, the judge got mad and says, every time you came here, you said you didn't have a job. She says, what do you do? He says, I'm a chef. So she goes into her computer. She goes, okay, per my calculation. Now, this is a long time ago. She says, you can at least pay $15 an hour. So she looked at what I made and looked at what he made. And she says, now, because he took me back and I had owed him. I never paid it because he never enforced it. I wasn't going to give it to him anyway because I was taking care of my child. But she says, now you owe her. And he blew up. I don't have a job. She says, I'm tired of you saying that you don't have a job, but you could have a job. So, but So I was that type of parent for a while that said, okay, I know he doesn't have it. And, if I put him in a system, it's going to cause him some hardship. I'm not talking about those situations, but a guy or a woman is down on his or her luck. When do we say, okay, I'm going to give you a pass for a month or two?
So once again, if you already have a child support order, you can file a modification with the court. While it's important that you understand why we have these courts of continuing jurisdiction, right? You're going to continue to go to the same court, and not necessarily the same judge, because we elect them every so often, but you're going to go to the same court every time, and your file is available for those judges to see how many times you requested a modification. To your instance with the chef job, the Texas Family Code does have a clause in there that says if you are intentionally underemployed or unemployed, we can go based on what you should be making. So if he's a chef and he's not showing no documentation or showing anything, a judge can very well say, well, this is what you should be making, or this is what you could be making. And so I'm going to base child support based on that, right? However, if you are going on hard times and this is something that's not often for you, file the modification in court, have your case heard before a judge. And, I believe a judge will show you sympathy. But at the end of the day, if you have to go to a judge, you have to go to a judge, but you can't get a modification. A mom cannot modify a custody order, right? If think of criminally, because a lot of African-American people know how the criminal justice system works, right? Think about a protective order. If the judge says there's a no contact order, you do not contact this person, right? That person, that victim cannot say, oh, yeah, you can come by me, because if a police officer comes and you're in contact with that person, guess what? You're going to jail, because that's violation of a court order. So when you're thinking of these things, I want you to think of that custody order. Child support order, and mom cannot say, oh, you know what, this month don't pay, because at the end of the day, you're still going to occur arrears, and at any point she can come back in and file an enforcement against you. So anytime there's a change in employment or circumstances, file a modification, get a ruling from a judge or get an order from a judge, because you guys can agree, but there still has to be an order signed off by the judge.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Even though the mom says don't pay, it's still going to be building up. So that's a good point. So somebody says, and I'll leave this with the attorney. The question: the child support system is making money off of having people tied up into the child support system. So true or false?
True, but think of it this way. Attorneys who work for the Office of Attorney General, they have a salary, right? And so my hourly rate, I'll tell you, is $285. It's a reasonable rate for me. But think about those attorneys who are filing those enforcements on behalf of the custodial parent, who are, the Office of the Attorney General is doing the accounting, making sure that, he's paid up, he's doing what he's supposed to do. You're not doing that. You don't file the enforcement, because if you do, you're going to go to a private attorney, which I'm much more expensive than what the Office of the Attorney General is. So yes, they're making money, but it's not a substantial amount of money where it's like, oh my God, we're paying these Office of Attorney General, we're paying these assistant AGs millions and millions of dollars. They don't make that much. They don't make that much money. So what you're paying is, a price to help you with your case. Now you can come to me and you can pay that money to me, and we don't have to go through the Office of the Attorney General's office. We can have a court order where it says, hey, you pay her directly on the first of the month. And if, we can do it that way, but you are going to the Office of the Attorney General. So yeah, that's going to be something that you have to pay.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not just for the mom, because we are honing in on child support, but the Office of the Attorney General does the possession and access order too. And so fathers, they're doing a service for you to ensure that you're getting access and possession of your child. So it's not just a one-way street.
Okay, Demetra fell off. She'll come back in. I just think that it's a tough situation nowadays in some areas dealing with this. And right now, Donovan, I would say, because I'm looking at some comments, especially Lori Justice Mitchell's been making since we started. And the money this, the money that, for me, I'm gonna tell you straight up, because I'm straight out the hood. You keep your kitty, shouting.
Mhm.
You can keep your kitty, shouting, because I don't want to deal with you. If it's a headache before we even get off into it, I know it's gonna be a headache when the kid comes. And I don't have time to be trying to raise a child through my pocketbook. I don't have time for that. And that's the way that a lot, and you know what, I'm gonna give the women credit. What I can't say is the ghetto women. I can't say it's the suburban woman. But some of these women nowadays don't get it. You're destroying the relationship with the child, and you don't know that's what you're doing because you're the custodial parent. You just think you controlling everything. But
what about the fathers? What about the fathers who are not exercising their possession and access, who are not fighting for their rights to their children? They're messing up their relationship with their children too, because at the end of the day, as a parent, a child is expensive. I don't care what nobody say. For the longest, until my son started going through his puberty and stuff, I stayed in a 1-bedroom apartment. But then when my son started going through puberty, it was like, you know what? You and I can't even sleep in the same bed no more, because that's a problem, right? And so it's more expensive to raise a child. Now I have to stay in the 2-bedroom, and there's things that kids want to do. Extracurricular activities, taking them to and from these extracurricular activities, making sure they have tutoring. If your child is not with their father, I don't care what nobody say, therapy is essential for a child who is being raised without their parent, whether that's mother or father, because at the end of the day, when they get older, they're going to have to deal with those issues. So it's very expensive to raise a child outside of, period, not even in a marriage, but it's expensive to raise a child. But we're talking about child support, the money aspect of it all. But we can flip it and talk about fathers who, just because they have to pay child support, and in the state of Texas, is really not that much, because we have caps, right? That are not exercising first, their third, their fifth weekend. They're not getting their 30 days or 42 days in the summer. They're not exercising their alternate holidays. So let's talk about them, because that's affecting the child too.
Let's talk about this. I was raised by a strong Black woman that made $119 a week. She had 2 kids and no husband. She never complained. She did what she needed to do. Now I got women nowadays making $2,000-3,000 a week, and all they do is whine and complain about being a parent, whether single or with a man. You want a child, accept the responsibilities, because we know sometimes it's not going to work out perfect. The man may leave, or the woman may leave, or whatever. Man or woman up, and stop complaining. My mom made $119 a week. And she took care of daycare, put food on the table. These folk get $2,000-3,000, and they can't even put their goddamn shoes on no more.
I don't think it matters what amount of money a mother makes, or what amount a father makes who's the custodial parent. At the end of the day, this person did not make this child by themselves. And so there is a level of responsibility on the other side that must be addressed. So I don't care how much money someone is making. That other parent needs to contribute to raising that child, period. The end. There's nothing to it. And we have to get out of this mentality as African American people about struggling. We want to struggle in love. We want to struggle in raising kids. We want to struggle in everything as if that's right. It's not okay to struggle. It's not okay.
Right. There was a question that somebody asked, the statute of limitation on arrears. Now in California, there is no statute of limitation. That's California, and I know that. But what about Texas?
In the state of Texas, retroactive child support is considered to be in the best interest of the child to go back 4 years. Now, if there's another reason why they should do more than 4 years, that argument can be heard. And if there's a compelling reason for them to do more than 4 years, then the court can. But it's 4 years.
Hello. I don't know. we have everybody's using the air conditioner stuff in our neighborhood, so the power just glitched. I was like, ugh. So my apologies for that. And I was listening to the conversation just a little bit. But so Marcus has vehemently been inboxing me, and he wanted me to ask this question. So I think I read his question wrong. And basically earlier, this is in regards to the $30,000. He says that he owes $30,000 in back child support for a child that he has never met. And so the mom has been dodging him and all of that. So what does he need to do? Is it a lost cause at this point, or?
So he's never met the child? Why?
It says it sounds like the mom has been dodging him. Is from what I understand.
So he needs to. Is there a court order in place?
Sounds like there is, because he's $30,000 in arrears.
So what I would do is I would file an enforcement in the county in which the case was first, wherever the child support order came out of, file a motion for enforcement so that he can actually see this. But the child is 18 now, right?
The child is 14. So he said he's been paying on and off, but not consistently. I guess that's why he's accrued the $30,000.
The obligation doesn't stop because you did not see the child. There's remedies in place for you to see your child. So if you care, if you want to see your child, file a motion for enforcement so that you can see your child, so that you can possibly, if there's, you can place geographical restrictions on them. If she's dodging you, you can bring that up to the court and say, hey, this woman has been dodging me. I think it's in the best interest of this child to put geographical restrictions so that I can have a continuous relationship with my child. I don't have to worry about her dodging me in the future. And you can get makeup time for all the time that you were unable to see your child. So it's up to you if you want to see your child. It's not up to her. It's up to you. If you want to do it, file the enforcement.
Okay, so I see that we have Lanisha and Stacy on. What did you guys want to add to the conversation? Because we've been here for about an hour and a half now. What did you guys want to add? I think they're frozen again. So when you guys become unfrozen, then we'll hear from you. So I'm trying to get to some of these other comments because I know that people had a lot to say. And then
it's a hot topic.
It's
a hot topic.
I can see. Let me see. I had a question on here. So someone asked sort of a fun, maybe not so fun question. What if someone hits the lotto? How would they go about those? Is that
move to Argentina? Run. Run.
Yes.
How does that work with the lotto? We went half on the paper. We ain't went half on the ticket.
Right. All right. So the Texas Family Code says any income, right? Your net resources are any income. So if that's lottery, if that's certain level of sometimes disability, if you're getting tips, if you're getting bonuses, all that is going to be considered in determining the amount of child support you're supposed to pay. So maybe your child support increases for the year of 2020 because you hit the lottery, but maybe next year it decreases if you file the modification like you're supposed to because you no longer have that money.
So why don't you hit the lotto, and as soon as you know that ticket is good and you got that money, call them people, and I want to pay off all my child support. And they're your money, and I'm gone. Now it come out in the paper. Gary Monroe won the lottery, and you is paid, and I don't have to deal with you.
Right. Yeah, but isn't there always a lot of cases where like pro athletes, especially NBA players, they usually file once they're out of the league or that it's a normal.
Well, I do have the privilege of representing some athletes. There's an echo.
Yeah, it needs to be muted. People need to.
Can we hear me now? Okay. And so with celebrities, depending on their salary, depending on their contract, depending on different bonuses, a lot of times what we do with them is become to a mediated settlement agreement. So we don't have this back and forth. We understand that their income is going to change, that they're going to get certain bonuses. We can't always calculate what their bonuses are going to be. And so in mediation, what we do is come up with a number that is reasonable and works for both parties. If not, we have to go to court for it. But 9 times out of 10, most athletes find a way to settle their case in mediation. They don't want to go to court. And so they'll figure it out that way. And we can put a clause in the mediated settlement agreement. Remember, that agreement is binding. You can't really change it. We put a clause in there that maybe in 2 years we'll, recalculate what child support is or something like that. But those people are different. Usually they can buy out their baby mamas and they can give them whatever it is that they want. And so they don't really have those type of issues.
Okay, so let's touch upon this. And I know we've been here for a while, so we'll wrap up in just a few, I guess, Gary, if that's up to you guys. I know you guys are tired. So we know, even though parents have a custody order, right? The judge has sealed it and said this is the way it's gonna go. Non-custodial parent shows up to the visitation. And the custodial parent says, well, you know what, we had plans. My auntie, baby sister and them, it's they birthday party or whatever. And so you can't get the child. All right. So father, mom, whoever is the non-custodial parent calls the popo and say, hey, I have a court order. I need you to get over here and assist me with getting my child. Now, I know in California, police officers may or may not intervene. And a lot of times they're like, you know what? You just got to take them back to court. And they often don't assist the non-custodial parent. So, our attorney, can you speak to that? I mean, because I know it would be a headache if I was a non-custodial parent. Every time I showed up to pick my child up, the other parent is giving me, a whole bunch of excuses to why I can't get my child. And it's costly to continue to go back to court, especially if you have a good job to modify. So what's your best advice?
I keep trying to pull up one of these orders that I have to share the screen so that I can show people. But in your order, there is language that says there's a notice to peace officers. In that notice, it says a peace officer may use any force reasonably necessary to enforce the order within that paper, right? So number one is, if you're dealing with that type of parent, make sure that you have a certified copy of your order with you at all times. Sometimes police officers will help. Sometimes they will. If you have the proper documentation, they will help. They will assist you. They will, make sure that they use reasonable force to get you your child. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't get involved. If it's one of those situations where they're not getting involved, then you do want to contact an attorney. If it's like summer visitation, what we can file is a writ of habeas, which means it's basically bring the child to court so that we can see if your order is valid and if there's a reason for this parent to deny you visitation for some reason. Because there are cases where there's been molestation, there's been abuse in some way. And as a parent, I'm not allowing you to have my child. I don't care what's in a court order. Do what you need to do. But if that's not a situation, then you can go before the court, and then the court will issue a writ of attachment, which then orders a police officer to go get your child. So the custody order that you have is a protection for police officers that say, if you're going by this order, there won't be any civil action against you if you enforce it. But a writ of attachment is an order from a court to say you must go get this child for the parent. So there's a couple of ways that you can handle that. My best advice would be contact an attorney. If you can't afford one, at least schedule a consultation.
All right, so Stacey and Lanisha, looks like you are back. What do you all have to add to the conversation? I think you guys are in a better spot for reception now. So what do you have to add to the conversation?
You go first.
Well, for me, I'm just gonna put it like this, flat out. A whole lot of this, to me, it just seems like a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Okay, the reason why I'm saying that is because it's almost like it's a game a lot of these people play. You know what I mean? With people's lives, which is unfortunate. You know, I understand that there are certain people that their situations, they know how to deal with each other, but then you have some people that don't. They may need the court, may need the law, whatever. But what's so ridiculous to me is that why do we even have a system in place? You know what I mean? If by seem like a lot of times by default, the non-custodial parent gets just the tail end of everything, whether they understand their rights or don't understand their rights. You know what I mean? And I understand there are certain things in place to protect that, but at the same time, I'm just trying to figure out where do they, you know, I mean, draw the line with a lot of this stuff, because I don't understand how, like you say, if a parent is not allowing the other parent to get their children a specific time and they're supposed to. When I was dealing with my situation, I didn't even want to deal with going to court, spending a whole bunch of money. And so I had to figure out the best way I possibly could to try to work things out with the other parent on my own, even though they didn't, you know, hold into that bargain most of the time. But I just wasn't going to go through all that unnecessary nonsense. And I always thought about this also was the fact that, okay, why is it almost seems like, I could be wrong, why does it seem like to me it's always by default that most of the time it's either the mother ends up with the children, as if to say that the father is not well equipped enough to take care of a child, when there are a lot of great fathers that can do the job. If the father is making enough money to take care of the children, you know what I'm saying? And if the mother does not have the means, why not let the child just live with the father? But I understand every situation is different. I get that. But it seems like to me, by default, whether it's a divorce, whether it's whatever, the children end up with the mother. And sometimes vice versa. It could be that the mother is probably capable of taking care of the children, but they may give them to the father for whatever reason. But for the most part, it's always the mother get the children, not the father. And you have some great fathers that are willing and able, and they can do it. But like I said before, they get the tail end of the stick. I don't understand that. Why is the system set up that way? Well, it may not be. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't understand. I don't get it.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to allow the attorney who has been so gracious. And can you guys mute your phone? He has been so gracious and I mean just super helpful and answering all these questions. We're going to allow her to address that. And then also want you to address ultimately what should people do to avoid child support, right? And then please give the people your information, because I saw a couple of people on here say that they needed to contact you. So give them all your information in order for them to do that. So we're going to allow our attorney to have the last words.
So I'm just to slide this Cash App to y'all, okay? So if any of this information has been helpful to you in any way, if I answer any of your questions, Cash App Brenda's My Lawyer, BRENDAS My Lawyer, okay? And you can find me on Instagram at Brenda's My Lawyer. And when you go there, you can see all my information on how to contact me, how to schedule a consultation. I think his question
Do me a favor, type that in the comment section so people can see it. And Gary, maybe can you pin it so people can see that?
Yeah.
I don't think I can. I can send it to a private chat to you guys. You see it, Gary?
Hold on. What is your Cash App, sweetheart?
Brenda's my lawyer, BRENDAS.
If you go
My
to the
lawyer.
live comments, you can see her. She typed it in on the live comment, Gary. We see where it says live comments and then private chat. So go to the private chat and you can see it there.
Okay.
Got it.
Hold up. I put it wrong.
You got it? I can't.
And Brenda's. But I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of bounce off of this individual's comment. Let me tell you, the fathers who get default judgments are one, who don't take child custody or child support hearings seriously, or two, they don't fight for their children. You do not have to agree to anything unless a judge has ordered it. So if you're not comfortable, the number one thing that I see is the standard possession order, right? The first, the third, the fifth weekend, 30 days in the summer, alternating holidays. In Texas, we have also an expanded possession. So if you're in close proximity and you have a good relationship with your child, you can do a standard possession order with elections, meaning you get your child overnight on Thursdays instead of from 6 to 8. Like, you get expanded time with your child. But a lot of people don't know their rights. They don't know what they can get. They don't understand. There's this stigma that the system is against them. But let me tell you, my clients and the people who come through my office, they're fighting for their children. And so they get so much more than the standard possession order. He made a comment about mothers always getting primary custody. That's not right. I hate to talk about my losses, but I recently lost a case with mom who was the primary caregiver to dad who wanted custody of his child. And it wasn't anything that we did wrong, but the standard is what's in the best interest of the children. Are you in a stable environment? What is your work schedule like? Who is the child most connected to, and who has the child been living with for most of the time? How are they doing in school? Do they have any disabilities? Like, there are several factors that go into who's going to be the primary caregiver. But let me tell you, if there's an AG case and I file for child support and you don't contest custody, then that's on you. That's on you. That's not the system. That's you not knowing. And I tell people all the time, yes, getting an attorney is expensive. Even my clients, when they come to me with a custody case, I tell them this: custody cases are my most expensive cases. And two, this is going to be very draining and very long. I have a custody case that I've been on for 2 years. We still haven't made a determination on who's going to be the primary caregiver. But if you are willing to fight for your child, there's no money, there's no time, there's no anything that's going to stop you from getting what you want, right? And so my argument, and not even my argument, but what I see in the courts is that fathers are just not, they don't know, and they're not fighting. So if you can't do anything else, if you cannot afford an attorney, get a consultation. My consultations, I'm going to tell you what I can do for you, and I'm going to tell you what you can do for yourself. So it's not just about you hiring me. It's how can I help you? You pay for an hour of my time. Any question that you have, any issue that you have, I'm going to help you address it. And when you leave my office, you're going to have some type of strategy on how you can handle it. Now, you're not an attorney, so you might mess up doing it, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do. But a lot of fathers don't do that. They go to these AG courts by themselves and they don't fight.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this real quick. I can tell you guys this, especially the fathers out there, because I went through it just like everybody else went through it. The same laws they use against you, you could use those exact same laws for your benefit. So that's the best advice that I can give you.
All right. And so in closing, how can one avoid child support court ultimately?
You can. So the AG's office does not have to be a part of your order. You can have an order that does not even mention anything with the Attorney General's office, so long as mom or dad, for let's say the children have not received TANF, they've not received governmental medical assistance in any way, you can avoid the AG's office totally by getting some type of agreement and paper and saying, you know what, we don't need the AG's office to account for how much money you've been paying for child support. We don't need them to file enforcement if you don't pay. If you don't pay, I'll file enforcement through my private attorney. But you don't have to involve the Attorney General's office. You don't. You can file your SAPSR and you guys can go to mediation and agree to an amount. It doesn't have to be based on statutory guidelines. If I say, hey, Gary, you know what? I know that you, pay $100. We can agree to don't pay nothing. I can agree for you to not pay anything. I can agree for whatever it is that I want. And we can draft an order that says what we want it to say, and we don't have to involve the AG's office. But child support is going to be the only way to not have to pay child support is if the parent who has primary custody says, I don't want your child support.
And what I was looking for, and Al actually hit the nail on the head. He says, for one, have a great relationship with parents and choose wisely with who you lay down with, because as I said yesterday, if you can't see yourself being with that person for at least 18 years, put your clothes back on and do a 360 out the room and say, all that looks good, but I know the job is dangerous and I don't want to sign up for it. So
time out. Doris Brown said mediation is full of bullshit. There is a difference between mediation with the Attorney General's office and private mediation. Mediation with the Attorney General's office, 100% bullshit. They're there to do a job and they're going to do their job, and either you agree or you don't agree. What I would recommend is if you are summoned to go to a mediation for child support court, you can file your own answer. I tell my clients who cannot afford my services all the time, go to texashelp.org and pull their different filing, like motions and stuff, and file a motion for that. Most of the courts here in Harris County require mediation before a final trial. You'll have to pay for a private mediator. It's anywhere between $250 to $450 for 4 hours. But these attorneys are experienced attorneys. They've been before these judges before. Just like I'm telling you the law tonight, they're going to tell you, hey, this is what's in the Texas Family Code. And so those mediations aren't bullshit. They're very helpful in resolving matters with families. So yes and no. Mediation, I love mediation. I'd rather do mediation because it allows parents to dictate what's going to happen with their family, as opposed to me exposing you on the stand and making you look like a horrible parent than it would be in mediation. Because that's my job. When I go to trial, I'm making you look like shit. I'm making you look like an unfit parent who does not deserve to have possession of, not possession, but custody, primary custody over this child. That is my job.
Right. And so we have been here for about hour and 50 minutes. And so we could honestly be here forever, but we are all going to get out of here. Please, you guys, the link is up there. Brenda's My Lawyer at Cash App. If you found something that was helpful, even if you didn't, you just enjoyed listening to her give a lot of great advice, go ahead and visit her Cash App and leave a little something in there, right? There you go, Donovan, big baller. So I'm going to actually turn it over to you now, Gary.
I tell you, to answer your question, you know, how do you avoid child support court? Very, very simple for Gary W. Monroe. You can call me Jackathon Joe, and you can keep your coochie shouted. That's how I feel. I'm not going through it no more, period. So I want you to understand one thing, that tomorrow night, I got my man coming through tomorrow night, man. Leon Chambers, the goody man, gonna be here tomorrow night. See, that goody keeps you in child support court. So tomorrow night, we're gonna take it to the trail ride. We've been in the middle of the war zone. My good attorney friend, Attorney Brenda, my beautiful co-host Demetra K, my new co-host Donovan, and I am the 5-star general.
She got the goody goody, and the way she put it down, I swear